It is now that time of the year. 2025 is starting to wind down, which means it is time to start considering the best, the worst, and the most disappointing games of 2025. And don't get me wrong, I will be getting to my favorite games of the year in just a few short weeks, and I'm already telling you, that is a tough list. However, we can't get there yet, as we have to go through the worst and most disappointing that this year had to offer in gaming. Now, I feel the need to make this clear every year. This is not just a list of the worst games of the year, nor is it just a list of the most disappointing either. It's a combination of the two. So with that being said, not every game on this list is outright bad. In fact, some of these I went 7 out of 10 when I reviewed them, which means I think they are good, if perhaps not as good as they should be. But when you see a game on the list, that doesn't automatically mean it's bad, until we get further into it, that I feel like that's how it should work. Also, these are games that I played this year. If you are wondering why some terribly reviewed games aren't here, it's because I didn't play them. And before we begin, I want to give like a semi-honorable mention, or I guess like honorable or dishonorable number one spot to the gaming industry. If you remember last year, if you saw my list of the worst / most disappointing games last year, I had the gaming industry as my number one worst game of 2024, despite it not being, a game. And I'd say that this year was a bit better, but that's not saying much. We still got many layoffs, studio closures, canceled games, and companies increasing prices and potentially pricing out consumers. The reason I'm not including it on this year's list is because A, I don't want to do it 2 years in a row, and B, I feel like it's not too necessary this year because I definitely have 10 spots to fill. I kind of didn't really have that last year. But just know, as long as things keep going the way they are, the gaming industry is still the true villain. Anyways, now, let's get started. But before we do that, you know what to do. Be sure to like this video, subscribe if you're new, hit the bell, leave a comment, or I will commit arson. Monster Hunter Wilds came out and it seemed like a hit. It reviewed pretty well, people were playing it, it was doing numbers, and everyone seemed overall happy with it. And then it fell off. Hard. Monster Hunter Wilds is an interesting case on this list for me personally, because it makes the list for reasons that I don't think any other game ever has. But Monster Hunter Wilds was seen as a disappointment to many fans of the series due to changes like the game being more streamlined and making, the grinding not as fun and less challenging, a lackluster endgame, and a slow-ass story mode. Not to mention a piss-poor PC release. And it definitely did take issue with a lot of those, specifically the story mode I did think was ass, but that's not why it's on the list. Monster Hunter Wilds makes my list because it's the game that made me realize I'm not a Monster Hunter guy. And I realized that before everyone started to turn on it. I guess this may be my one hot take, but yeah, I never really got too into World or Rise, but I gave the series the benefit of the doubt because I played those games under strange circumstances. Wilds was under rather normal circumstances, so I thought it would be the one. But I guess 3 strikes and you're out. That does make it less offensive than the upcoming games, which is why it's only number 10, but in one way or another, Monster Hunter Wilds was still disappointing. I think it's safe to say that Obsidian had a solid 2025. Say what you want about the quality of their games this year, but in an era where most developers are lucky to get 2 games out in a 5-year span, Obsidian managed to put out not 1, not 2, but 3 games in just 1 year. I haven't actually played 2 of the 3, being Outer Worlds 2 and Grounded 2. One's on my backlog and the other is Grounded 2. What about their game that came out before those 2? Well, that would be Avowed. Don't get me wrong, I walked away from Avowed not hating it, and actually thinking it could have been a lot worse, but it also could have and should have been a lot better. For Obsidian, the devs of Fallout New Vegas, Avowed feels rather dull. It's rather forgettable with very flawed or broken quest designs and is very buggy and glitchy. I think they've since patched it, but there were actual game-breaking glitches that I faced during my time with the game. Not to mention some ridiculous load times for a game in the year 2025. Yeah, Avowed by no means is like the worst game of the year or anything like that, but it didn't live up to the promise that Obsidian usually provides. If you watch my list of my favorite games of 2024, you may remember Super Mario Party Jamboree landing on that list. And I still stand by that, as it is a super fun, content-packed, and uber-charming Mario Party. But with the release of the Switch 2, Nintendo wasted no time in revealing Super Mario Party Jamboree Nintendo Switch 2 Edition plus Jamboree TV. What a mouthful. This was gonna provide a visual upgrade for the base game, along with other upgrades too, whilst adding Jamboree TV, a new set of mini-games that take advantage of the Switch 2's features. In case you couldn't tell, it's on the list, as in the whole release. First off, on the Jamboree TV side of things, the mini-games are quite lame. All it is stuff like doing goofy shit with the camera, or yelling the word move into the mic to move a car. It's admittedly not anything too offensive, even if it's quite bad. But what puts Super Mario Party Jamboree, and the overly long title, on the list is the upgrade to the base game. As, what upgrade? What, you thought there would actually be an upgrade to the base game? I'm not kidding. All this release did was add mini-games that weren't good, and that's basically it. Nintendo eventually updated the game with a visual upgrade, but this should have been an easy slam dunk. What the fuck happened?
36.
Very close, but that's not it. Let's go to Gary the Retard. What number between 2 and 4?
7.
Mortal Kombat is such a badass franchise, but most of its earlier games haven't quite been preserved too much. So with the release of Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection, I was hyped. Somehow they fucked it up. I want to specify that they didn't completely fuck it up. The lineup of games is pretty much perfect, even if some of these games are bad games. I think as a lineup preserving older games, it's a perfect lineup. That, along with the whopping 4 hours of documentary footage in the game that got me hooked. And if you strictly play this game offline, you have a hell of a game here. The problem is when you go online. The online in the MK collection feels unfinished, both in the sense that it's lacking basic features like ranked, crossplay, and fucking private lobbies, and in the sense that it's extremely slow, defaults to 4 seconds of input delay, and they somehow fucked up the sound quality during matches. Not to mention the menus. They are AI generated. Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection is not higher because, again, as a celebration of the series, this is amazing. And if you completely stay offline, dare I say, it's a near flawless victory. But it's a real shame that type of love couldn't be given to the rest of the game. It's not my worst of the year, but the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection might just be my most disappointing.
Okay, Mrs. Puff, what's my final score?
6.
Nintendo had an interesting year this year. I don't want to say bad, because it was pretty solid all things considered, but interesting because they had some really good games this year, plus a whole new console, and then they had the Jamboree stuff, and the Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour. Now that time has passed, Welcome Tour isn't this offensive game that many people acted like it was. After all, it's basically an interactive manual for the Switch 2 with minigames sprinkled in, for $10. Yeah, that's the elephant in the room concerning this game, but I'd be able to justify that if Welcome Tour wasn't so fucking boring. These minigames aren't terrible, but they're implemented in a way that makes playing the game not fun. You basically have to 100% each minigame in order to progress through the game, which I'm telling you isn't fun when the minigames, all they are just, when does the Joy-Con vibrate the most, or shake the Joy-Con, or guess how many frames this is. And if you want to 100% the game, you need to buy all the Switch 2 accessories, which will cost you a lot of money. The Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour is not this unforgivable pile of trash, but it is very boring.
Oh, chills. Literal chills.
It was number 5. Number 5 killed my brother.
Oh my god, I forgot about that part.
Splitgate. I remember it kind of blew up out of nowhere back in like 2021, I think it was. It was almost like a hidden gem, but it was a solid game mixing both Portal and Halo. So I was quite hyped for Splitgate 2. Feels like they were building this up for a while, and there was an admirable amount of enthusiasm from the developers when they would talk about this game. So Splitgate 2 came out, and then it didn't come out. Splitgate 2 released after deleting the first game, which is already frustrating, but then Splitgate 2 is much lower on content and much heavier on microtransactions. Hundreds of thousands of dollars of microtransactions, including some straight up pay-to-win bullshit. It immediately dropped off, and the developers, I'm not kidding, pulled the game. To a much lesser extent, 1047 Games, or however you say that, pulled a Concord. And yes, they are relaunching it, or maybe it's already happened by the time you see this, I don't know, as Splitgate Arena Reloaded, but I don't really care. I noticed that skateboarding games are low-key pretty popular. Wow, great observation, DPX. But like, obviously you got the Tony Hawk games, and you also got other skateboarding series, but one cult favorite is Skate. Many will argue it's even better than Tony Hawk, so with the release of Skate 4, people were excited. Except it's not Skate 4. Cause it's not called that, but it's barely even Skate. It's trying its best to be anything else, but in the process, it loses the charm of Skate. It's quite indicative of most live service games. Companies tried to just make Fortnite instead of making a game people actually want to play. Skate takes everything that made the original game stand out, rips it away, and replaces it with your typical live service bullshit. Now, I'm not going to act like I ever really got into the Skate games, because I didn't. I just never played really that much of any of them, except for a little bit of the third game, but I know just how much Skate means to a lot of people. People adore this series, and even if I'm not quite one of those people, it is still frustrating to see a new game in this series get treated like this. Gaming industry, stop doing this. Nobody wants to see their favorite franchises turned into boring-ass, lifeless, soulless, corporate, monetized live service games. I could have sworn this was my list of my worst / most disappointing games of the year, but I have Bumblebee Storm of Friendship on here. That can't be right. This game is a true work of art. It's emotional. It changed my life. It's a story-driven, narrative 3D flight exploration game where you control a little bee on its journey to find a new home. At least that's what, like, the store page says. It's powerful. It's moving. It's inspiring. And best of all, on Metacritic, while it may not have an actual meta score, it has one user review. And that one user review, I can tell you for a fact, is a 10 out of 10. And that score is by a user named I Love Bumblebee. And I know this because that may or may not be me. Definitely not me at all. Don't come at me. How come nobody else has played this game that is definitely not a giant Unity asset flip and is also definitely more than just flying around through rings with stock generic music playing in the back? Why am I the only user review on Metacritic? We need to rise up. Give Bumblebee Storm of Friendship the recognition it deserves. It's an absolute steal on the Nintendo eShop for, holy shit, $10 for this fuck-ass game?
What kind of pencil do we take again?
Number 2. Take a number 2.
Looks like you took a big number 2.
Okay, all jokes aside, I bought Bumblebee Storm of Friendship as a complete joke for a video I made about the Switch 2 at launch because it came out on the eShop the same day and was $2. But why isn't it higher? Well, it's sort of an easy target. As a game, it's probably objectively the worst on this list, but that would be lame, because of course this game is bad. And at the very least, Bumblebee is not physically uncomfortable to play, something I can't say about Drag X Drive. I promise, it's the final Nintendo game on here, and I love Nintendo. But what even is this game? Well, I can try my best to answer, as Drag X Drive was supposed to be the big showcase for the Switch 2 mouse controls. A feature that I actually think is really cool, don't get me wrong, but this was not the game to do it with. But even besides playing the game, look at it. Look at how lifeless and drab it looks. Look at how visually boring this game is. Say what you want about Nintendo. I know it's been fun to, hate on them in recent months because of the greedy shit that they pull, but their games usually have a level of charm present. Even Welcome Tour, a game that was super boring, at least that game had the typical Nintendo charm. But not Drag X Drive. It is a lifeless husk of a game visually, but then you actually play it, and you realize this game does not lend itself to the mouse controls at all. You need a lot of physical space in order to even move your character, and it never feels right. Any way you play this game is gonna result in an awkward feeling one way or another. And other than that, there's nothing else here. And sure, it's only $20, making this a cute fuck up compared to some of the other games on this list. But even as a little $20 fuck up, Drag X Drive is not worth it.
Mama Luigi, number 1.
Grand Theft Auto 6 was supposed to come out this year. I believe it was supposed to be in the summertime, then delayed internally to the fall, then was announced to be coming out in May of next year, and now is slated for November of next year. But fear not, because this year, we didn't need GTA 6. We had the GTA killer in Mind's Eye. I'm sorry. I couldn't say that with a straight face. I know this is not original to have Mind's Eye at number 1, but I know I said Drag X Drive gave me physical discomfort, but it's not a big budget AAA game. It didn't have the lead of the older GTA games behind it. Mind's Eye did. It seems like the sales pitch for Mind's Eye was like futuristic GTA, but what good was any of that when it came out and was unplayable? Mind's Eye was a buggy and glitchy mess, and sure, they've since patched a lot of the glitches, but not all of them. But even besides the technical problems of the game, Mind's Eye is just lame. It's more limited than you would think, with objectives that are very boring, not as much freedom as you probably should have in a game like this, and a story that it's alright, I guess. And it is worth noting that Build a Rocket Boy, the developers behind this game, seems to be trying to turn this around, as they've added a lot of side content that you can actually access for free without buying the main game. And I haven't played that yet, and I also haven't seen anyone give their opinions on that, so I won't really touch on that too much. But the base game of Mind's Eye was a total disaster at release, and is not much better now. Throw that in with all the behind-the-scenes politics and bullshit that went down, and Mind's Eye is easily my worst/most disappointing game of 2025. So yeah, that was my list of the worst/most disappointing games. I did not mean to have 3 Nintendo games on here. That just sort of happened. But yeah, I mean, what do you guys think? My list is going to look different from yours, because we all play different games, and we might have had different reactions to them. So what is your worst or most disappointing game? Maybe a game that's not on my list, or would you remove any of these games from my list? Anything about what we just went over, let me know down below. Anyways, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, or I will commit arson. Bye!